Hello, I'm Rachel Bullock. In Granada news, celebrations at Main Road as Manchester City join the Premiership and Friday's travel misery for rail passengers. That's coming up after the ITV Weekend news.
Ceremony and sorrow for Queen Mother's final journey. Prince's painful duty in historic military procession. Thousands wait hours to see coffin lying in state. And George Bush tells ITV why he's spoken out on the Middle East.
The ITV Weekend News with Katie Derham.
Good evening. Hundreds of thousands of people, 400,000 the police estimate, lined the route the Queen Mother's coffin took today from St James's Palace to Westminster Hall to her lying in state. The procession was mostly military, carried off with military precision. But walking behind the coffin were 14 members of a grieving royal family. In bright spring sunshine, the crowd watched largely in silence. But at the end, as the Queen was driven away from the Palace of Westminster to Buckingham Palace, they applauded her. Bill Neely reports on a great ceremonial occasion.
It was a day they had dreaded, but it was a day when the warmth of the spring and of the crowds eased their step and turned a solemn march into a bright and historic pageant. It was to be a massive procession full of pomp, but it began with a simple act. Borne by 8 soldiers of the Irish Guards, the Queen Mother's coffin left the Queen's Chapel at St James's Palace, where her body has lain for days. It was draped in her personal standard, topped with a single wreath and surmounted by the crown she wore at the coronation of her husband, King George VI, 65 years ago. Behind, sombre and ready for a march that would not be easy for them, Princes Harry and William. It moved off to the salvos of gunners firing a royal salute, the first of 28, one for every minute of the march. Down the Mall, 3 generations of royals, led by the Duke of Edinburgh, himself 80 years old. Beside him, Princess Anne, who had asked the Queen Mother if she might break with tradition and walk with the men at her funeral. And Prince Charles, honouring the grandmother he called magical. 1,600 soldiers, sailors and airmen followed, this the biggest royal procession in 40 years. It was an historic route, the Mall built as a memorial to Queen Victoria, in whose reign the Queen Mother was born. Her cortege passing the statue of her husband. The Queen Mother never passed here without acknowledging it. Then across Horse Guards Parade, where she celebrated her centenary. By now, the procession was almost half a mile long. The coffin passing under Horse Guards Arch, where for almost 80 years the Queen Mother would stand to watch trooping the colour. Prince Charles too has been this way before, following the coffin of his wife. For them all, the Queen Mother's marks the 3rd death in their immediate family in 5 years. The spring sunshine was glorious, the silence of the crowds profound, as the cortege neared the cenotaph, the memorial to the dead of 2 world wars and others since. Here, every year, the Queen Mother paid homage to the war dead, including her own brother Fergus, killed in 1915. And here, she made one of her final public appearances 5 months ago. On past Downing Street, astonishingly, the Queen Mother knew 20 Prime Ministers. She was also the last Empress of India. Her crown encrusted with an Indian diamond, the most dazzling and famous in the world. On the wreath, a card from the Queen. In loving memory, it reads, Lilibet, the family name the young Elizabeth was known by. Towards Westminster, the crowds swelled now by thousands of tourists, but filled by the tens of thousands for whom she was simply the Queen Mum. The procession had cut through the heart of London and through the hearts of all who saw it, nearly 500,000 people. It had taken exactly 28 minutes, bang on time. She had helped to plan it. It had been to the second, exactly as she would have wanted it. The ceremonial and the sacred came together in Westminster Hall, where she was lifted and placed on the spot where her husband had rested so long ago.
We remember before thee our sister, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. We give thanks for her example of faithful duty and unwearied service, and for the loyalty and love which she inspired.
4 officers of the Household Cavalry became the first to guard her coffin. Prince Charles and his brothers will take their turn. And here she will rest for 3 days in a hall built by the son of William the Conqueror, fitting for a queen so steeped in history. It was a short service for a long life, the Queen leading the mourners out. And as she drove away, the applause that had so marked Diana's funeral rang out. This was meant to be a year of golden celebration. So far, it has been anything but. The Queen said her mother had had a wonderful life. Later tonight, the vast crowds will be gone, the hall will be silent. But this will be a day that will not easily be forgotten. Bill Neely, ITV News.
So what was it that prompted so many people to go and watch the Queen Mother's coffin go by? And what did they make of it all? Did the occasion live up to their expectations? Juliet Bremner was out and about among the crowds.
She dominated many people's thoughts for the last week, and today they flocked to central London to say their goodbyes. Most wanted to be sure of a prime spot, to see what was being billed as one of the great spectacles of their lifetime.
It's amazing the amount of people that have turned out. It just shows you how much she was loved, how much she was thought of, and how much she's going to be missed, very, very sadly missed.
As the massed ranks of servicemen and women marched slowly into view, the crowd, now up to 10 deep, strained to get a better view. Many amongst them were too young to have any clear recollection of the Queen Mother, but still aware that this was indeed a special day.
She was a very special person, really. She was the whole country's grandmother, and I really miss her now that she's dead. I thought it was very happy, and she deserved to live a long life, and she was a very nice woman.
No one wanted grief to be allowed to dominate the day. There was rather a feeling that people were anxious to witness a moment that would take its place in the history books. The prevailing mood amongst the many thousands of people who've come to line this route today is one of quiet respect. They've come to celebrate a life devoted to the service of her country. And the sight of the gun carriage carrying her coffin provoked the strongest emotions. Deep pride at such a splendid ceremony, and for some, a simple sense of sadness.
It's a very special day for the country, and I'm so glad there are so many people here to say goodbye to a lovely lady.
I just went cold, and the hairs on the back of my neck just stood up, and it was a funny feeling. It's just that something that didn't seem to be true, really.
Especially to those with children of their own, The sight of Prince William and Harry walking behind a coffin again was particularly poignant.
A lot of emotion. It was lovely to see, and to see the crown glinting, all the jewels, and how sad the family looked. Prince Charles looked devastated, and the other members of the royal family. We were just very pleased to be here.
Above all, it was a time to watch and remember, recalling a life that had been both long and much appreciated. Juliet Bremner, ITV News.
Members of the public are still, even now, filing past the Queen Mother's coffin lying in state in Westminster Hall. The hall was supposed to close at 6 this evening, but the queue to get in was so long that the authorities kept it open. Indeed, it won't close until 6 in the morning, and then it will open again at 8. Nicholas Owen has spent the day there.
Across the Thames and on along the embankment, thousands of people, many of whom had seen the coffin on its way from St James's Palace, were patiently determined to get to Westminster Hall to pay their respects. For most of them, the wait was a long one, up to 6 hours in some cases. The fine spring afternoon weather probably encouraged many to keep queuing. The sheer numbers caught the authorities off guard, though.
The vibes were that it wasn't going to be so big, but looking at it today, yeah, it's we've done a great job here, and yeah, it's give us all the great, feeling of the response that's come about.
You're going to be put to the test, aren't you? People are going to be queuing for hours,
that's right.
Aren't they?
Yes, they are, yeah, and hopefully that we're going to keep going for 24 hours tonight.
Those at the back of the queue didn't mind.
Are you happy to wait?
Yeah, we've been here all day. We left home back 9 o'clock this morning, and we couldn't get through to see the funeral, so the children want to go and see the coffin. So.
Once they reached the head of the queue, the reason for all the waiting. The royal family and other dignitaries having gone, between now and Monday, the public have their chance to view the coffin of the Queen Mother. The guards change discreetly every 20 minutes. Everything is hushed. Stewards gently kept people moving so that the great queue outside didn't become too long. Those who emerged were often overawed.
It seemed very unreal, to be honest, but yeah, very, very nice.
Are you glad you came?
Yes.
I think it's important for people to be able to take a bit of their time out to show their support for the royal family, to grieve with them, to mourn with them.
I think it will lift the monarchy up no end and really do the nation proud. I thought it was beautiful.
Quite overwhelmed by it. It's very dignified, quite beautiful, and a last opportunity to say goodbye to quite an incredible woman.
This evening, the long queues up to the tented security cordon had disappeared, but those in charge kept their promise that everyone who wanted to would be able to enter the hall, which will be open to the public over the weekend and on Monday. Despite the ever-present demands of security, the good-natured crowd was getting through Westminster Hall here at the rate of 2,500 people an hour at the busiest time. For those of us who did file past the Queen Mother's coffin, it was another opportunity to reflect on her long life and be aware of taking part in a moment of history. No one can tell yet just how many will wish to pass by the coffin. The lying in state will end on Monday night after the Queen Mother's grandsons follow tradition and take their turn to stand vigil by her body. Nicholas Owen, ITV News, Westminster Hall.
Well, we're joined from Westminster now by our royal correspondent Tom Bradby. Tom, there really has been an extraordinary response by the public today, with so many people wanting to see the Queen Mother's lying in state.
Yes, very much. I suppose one of the images we'll all carry away from this is that huge, long, snaking queue all the way over Lambeth Bridge and down the other side. I think we can see some pictures now of inside Westminster Hall. You can see there are still people filing past. And in fact, tonight, I mean, obviously the queues have shortened, but I suppose we went away and came back, been here about an hour, and just in that hour, the queue has actually quadrupled in length again. So I think the point to make tonight is that people are still arriving. As you said in the introduction the authorities are going to keep it open till 6 in the morning, then they're going to shut for a couple of hours and open again at 8. So still a great deal of demand to get in, really.
Now, Tom, you viewed the procession. How would you describe the mood in the crowd?
Well, I suppose the thing about this really is that this must be the most predictable of public events. We knew exactly how it was going to go. It went exactly as expected. We saw all the rehearsals, and yet I think everyone who was there, perhaps a lot of people who watched on television, will have been slightly rocked back onto their heels by it. It really was very powerful and moving to watch. So you know what you're going to expect, you know what to expect, but there is still something about it that's quite hard to really put into words. I suppose there's been everyone has expected that there would be a lot of people wanting to pay their respects to the Queen Mother this week. Not quite sure exactly when that would really begin, but we saw that it did very much so today.
It must have been such a gruelling day, though, for the royal family.
Yes, and perhaps that's the most important part of all today, seeing the Queen's wreath there with Lilibet on it. I mean, that's very much in keeping with the week. Seeing Prince Charles, I mean, I suppose one of the images many people will take away from today was just the pain etched on his face there all the way through the procession. His sons behind, obviously too, having a very, very difficult day, and to some extent moving to a new era, I suppose, today. Queen Victoria once predicted the monarchy wouldn't outlive her by more than 20 years. It has. The Queen Mother was part of shaping it for the 20th century. I suppose in a way it's down to Prince William and Prince Charles really now to work out how they're going to shape it for the next century. And we've seen a bit of that starting this week with a very different mood about the way things have been done.
Tom, thank you. Now, the day's other major news, and President Bush has again called on Israel to get its troops out of the West Bank. In an exclusive interview, he told ITV's Trevor McDonald that he was beginning to worry that the foundations necessary to a lasting peace were becoming eroded. Tony Blair is due to land in Texas in the next hour for a summit on the Middle East at the president's ranch. Our Washington correspondent Robert Moore reports.
We've got a fabulous team. Put together one of the great administrations in American history. And
shortly before leaving for Texas, President Bush once again outlined his approach to the crisis in the Middle East. In an interview with ITV's Trevor McDonald, he rejected criticism his administration has shown bias.
And I'm calling on the Palestinians to live up to the agreement, and I'm calling on the Israelis to pull out of the occupied territories, of places or cities they've occupied recently, trying to set up a situation where we can achieve peace. That's what I want. I want peace, and I believe it can happen. Otherwise, I wouldn't be working so hard on it. I'm an optimist.
A Palestinian spokesman said, yes, but we also live under the terrorism of occupation.
Well,
do you understand that?
Sure, people have it, but look, my job isn't to try to nuance. My job is to tell people what I think, and when I think there's an axis of evil, I say it. I think moral clarity is important if you believe in freedom. And, people can make all kinds of excuses, but there are some truths involved. And one of the truths is they're sending suicide killers in because they hate Israel. That's a truth.
But he revealed that he did not believe a major summit was the way forward.
But now's not the time for one. I've got a different strategy.
President Bush is right.
That strategy will be at the heart of his meetings with Tony Blair. In an interview with American television before he left for Texas, the Prime Minister said the outline of an eventual Mideast agreement is clear.
The Arab world must recognize the existence of the State of Israel and do it positively and explicitly. And for its part, Israel and the broader world must recognize that out of the negotiated process will become a viable Palestinian state where people can then live side by side in peace.
Without question, the Middle East peace process now takes centre stage at the talks in Texas. Both Britain and the United States believe that without intensive diplomacy, the conflict could escalate into a broader regional war. Robert Moore, ITV News at the White House.
Well, there was no let-up in the Israeli military offensive in the West Bank today, though the American envoy, Anthony Zinni, did at last get to meet Yasser Arafat. 23 Palestinians, including the man thought to have been behind the Passover suicide bombing, were reported killed. At least one Israeli soldier also died today. Tim Hewitt reports.
The latest round of diplomacy here was conducted under bizarre circumstances. America's envoy Anthony Zinni was taken to the besieged compound where Yasser Arafat is a prisoner in his own office. News teams tried to cover the event. The Israelis dissuaded them, first by driving a jeep at them and then by firing rubber bullets and tear gas. General Zinni spent 90 minutes with Mr. Arafat. Palestinian officials said there'd be follow-up talks with the Americans. But Israel's military offensive continues. Helicopters above the West Bank town of Hebron fired rockets at a car owned by a leading Islamic militant. He parked and fled. And this was Bethlehem by night. The siege of the Church of the Nativity here is now in its 4th day. 4 of the 60 priests trapped in the church with Palestinian gunmen were released. 2 colleagues who brought them out returned inside. And in a nearby street, a lone Palestinian prisoner, blindfolded and handcuffed, was led away. Israeli operations in the West Bank may be entering a final phase. US Secretary of State Colin Powell is due here next week, and with American pressure mounting, the Israelis may feel forced to pull back by then. Tim Ewart, ITV News, Jerusalem.
Here, tens of thousands of rail passengers had to go without today when train drivers and conductors went on strike again. Workers at Arriva Trains Northern are protesting about pay, while those at First North Western are in dispute over disciplinary action. Replacement coach services were brought in to ferry frustrated passengers to their destinations. Peter Buck, the guitarist with the American rock band REM, was cleared of air rage charges today. He was accused of being drunk, attacking the crew and going on the rampage on a British Airways flight from Seattle to London. Buck, seen here on the right of the picture, told the court he'd suffered a bad reaction from sleeping pills and red wine and couldn't remember what had happened. Racing, the sport of kings, the sport of the Queen Mother, continued at Aintree today. The feeling was it's what she would have wanted. But there was again a minute's silence and the jockeys again all wore black armbands. It will be the same tomorrow, Grand National Day. Reporting from Aintree, here's Graham Miller.
Aintree wasn't sombre or downbeat, but respectful. The giant screens erected for race coverage switched to pictures of the Queen Mother's procession. It was early. Most people here were staff rather than punters, but they stopped and watched and reflected on the death of one of racing's biggest supporters. Before the first race, a minute's silence, which was again impeccably observed. Today was Ladies' Day, and the Aintree sunshine produced its usual crop of colourful costumes. The 345 got thoughts turning to tomorrow's showpiece. It's jumped over the big national fences, which close up are really enormous.
The old-timers will tell you the fences between the wars were the most difficult, but I'm now standing in the pit of the chair, which is 5'2" from the top to the racetrack, and there's also a 4-foot gap for the horses to negotiate before they hit the fence. But all of this pales into insignificance when you consider the early days of the National, when one of the fences was in fact a brick wall.
But the dangers to today's horses and riders are real enough. Champion jockey Tony McCoy twice fell heavily. The worst after his mount Is No Good took a tumble in the 450. He'll need to be pass fit by the doctor tomorrow before being allowed to ride the favourite in the National Blowing Wind. He needed treatment on the course. After both incidents, he's got cuts to his face and is badly shaken, but the doctor says he should be okay. Graham Miller, ITV News, Liverpool.
Well, to end the programme tonight, we revisit that emotion-packed procession through central London today when the Queen Mother was taken from St James's Palace to Westminster Hall for her lying in state. Getting on for 500,000 people lined the route, and tens of thousands later filed and continue to file now through Westminster Hall, paying their respects. They'd mostly been quiet, but when a grieving Queen left after a short religious service, they applauded her. Here are some of the sights and the sounds of a day which will stick in the memory.
You know, when you like people, you don't expect them to die, you don't want them to die. I'm sure she's looking down from above, saying thank you.
She deserved to live a long life, and she was a very nice woman.
There are so many people here to say goodbye to the lovely lady.
And that's it for now. I'll be back tomorrow, but from all the team here, have a very good night. Goodbye.
Hello, good evening. There's been a lot of sunshine over the UK today. It's more of the same during the course of the weekend, but it will feel especially chilly in the south. Now let's take a look at the broader picture, and it's a case of high pressure dominating the scene over the British Isles, low pressure there over Spain and Portugal, translating into very disappointing weather indeed for Spain, Portugal, south of France as well, rain as well as showers, and especially windy. In fact, gale force winds at times through the English Channel there. Now back over here, dealing with tonight, dry weather scene, some cloud around, some clear slots, low cloud and mist tending to stick in northeastern fringes there. And a very chilly old night in the offing as well. Temperatures down to a low of 3 or 4 degrees, leading to some touches of ground frost. So we go into tomorrow morning, starting off with Northern Ireland as well as Scotland. And we see that low cloud and mist tending to plague these eastern fringes there. And the very best of the sunshine tomorrow reserved for central and western parts. So temperature-wise, underneath the cloud around about 10, 11 in Belfast itself, and a high of about 14 or 57 on the Isle of Skye. Coming further southwards all the while, and a bright scenario, plenty of sunshine, long spells of sunshine coming through, some bits and pieces of cloud as well. Temperatures on the whole held at around about 12 or 13 in the south, but not feeling anything like that at all. Add on that stiff easterly breeze and feeling more like these sorts of values, 5 or 6 degrees. It will feel rather chilly. And do watch out for those gale force winds on the south coast, and especially through the English Channel there. A quick look at Sunday's weather. Again, plenty of sunshine, some wisps of cloud, and temperatures on the whole on Sunday held around about 11 to 13. Lighter winds in the north, but still very windy indeed in the south. So I leave you with a reminder once again of tomorrow's weather. That's all from me.
From now on, 1-to-1 is becoming part of something bigger. So now you can enjoy all the advantages of a new global mobile network. 1-to-1 becomes T-Mobile. T-Mobile. Get more.
It's well worth taking a closer look at the beautiful sofas in CSL. Right now and throughout Easter, there's a massive 40% off everything in our latest collection. You can even get up to 4 years free credit. And at CSL, all our sofas are guaranteed for 5 years. So, with 40% off, up to 4 years free credit and a 5-year guarantee, you can be as sure of our sofas as we are. CSL. For sitting, we leave others standing.
You can buy your specs in an hour, get your dry cleaning in an hour, see your photos in an hour, and now, in most cases, you can drive away your new car in an hour. Carcraft. There's over 1,500 cars in stock. Carcraft. Just bring your driving licence, a recent utility bill and £99 or any old car as deposit. Carcraft. In most cases, you can now drive your new car away in an hour. Carcraft of Rochdale. We're easy to find. Junction 20, M62.
United Utilities, supplying life's essentials.
This is where we made DIY easier. We created a paint called Colours Everywhere.
The polymers in our unique acrylic technology fuse together, cover walls, ceilings, wood, even radiators.
Dries to a super tough finish. Comes in 32 vibrant colours to brighten any room. Wipes clean in a flash. Just $11.98 for 2.5 litres. Colours everywhere. All the paint a room needs. Only at B&Q. You can do it when you B&Q it.
Buy a pair of Boots brand spectacles with scratch-resistant lenses and get a pair of prescription sunglasses absolutely free. Now available at Boots Opticians.
New visibly refined moisturiser from Neutrogena. For smoother, finer, more beautiful skin, even without makeup. New visibly refined, the confidence of naked skin.
Colin, it's me.
What you got?
Come and have a look at this.
Oh, what a beauty.
That's like yours.
Come and have a look at this. Come on, look at the body on that.
You lot are sad. Don't you ever grow up?
Yes.
At autotrader.co.uk, you'll find your perfect partner.
We've designed a stencil based on a tattoo, and one of the most dramatic is the dragon.
Real Rooms on UK Style.
A man of his resources can give you everything. I do not wish to be bought. I would rather wait and find someone I love.
She married into a dynasty of wealth and power.
Respectability will not keep you warm at night, you know it.
But what price?
Soames's wife.
Passion.
People will be talking. It matters what they say.
A brand new drama comes to ITV1. The Forsyte Saga, Sunday at 9.
Factory Records music maestro Tony Wilson in the spotlight here on Granada after Friday's late regional news.
Good evening. Manchester City are a Premiership club tonight without even kicking a ball. Fans are celebrating after rivals Wolves failed to win at Millwall, granting the Blues automatic promotion.
I'm over the moon, over the blue moon. Absolutely brilliant. Expecting a big crowd down here now. Just over the moon.
Back where we belong, knowing where we're going all season. It makes a change for us to get there before the last minute of the last game of the season, but we're there, it's all that matters.
Really excited. Just drove past the stadium. Just live around the corner, so looking forward to them coming there and hoping that they'll stay up. They've done really well, really pleased.
Oh, we're back to where we should be, well and truly. You know, it's hurt us for a few years, what's happened to us, but we're back, and Kevin's done his job.
Greater Manchester Police are preparing to mount a major operation for tomorrow's Oldham-Stoke football match at Boundary Park. The fixture last year was marred by hooliganism. Hundreds of officers will be on the streets and some of the town's railway stations will be closed. Two of the region's biggest rail companies have been in the grip of strike action today. It came as Manchester Airport faced more industrial action by security workers. Michelle May has this report.
Rush hour and train stations are deserted, and it's hardly for the first time. Hundreds of drivers from First North Western have walked out again for 24 hours. All services have been cancelled today, including the major routes between Manchester and Liverpool and to the north. It's the second strike by ASLEF members over the sacking of a colleague who went through 2 consecutive red lights.
49 years service, good service, conscientious, always turned up on time. And yet he'd made a mistake, no damage caused, he put his hands up. Is that draconian disciplinary measures? It is to us.
This is the first dispute that we've had at First North Western, and it is in relation to safety. I've said before, I am not prepared to compromise safety. We are regularly audited by the industry safety organisations, and we have had nothing but praise for the way that we manage our drivers and the way that we manage our service.
And then there's Arriva Trains Northern, 600 conductors on strike for a 5th time. The company says the RMT union is demanding an unrealistic pay increase. The unions say Arriva are treating workers with contempt. Only half of their services are running until midnight tonight. As if that weren't enough, security staff at Manchester Airport walked out on strike at 4 o'clock for 24 hours.
The mother of a 14-year-old boy who died after the stolen car he was travelling in crashed into a lorry in the Mersey Tunnel is to sue the tunnel's owners. Daniel Franey died at the exit of the Wallasey Tunnel under the River Mersey with his friend Scott Veach last month. They were being followed by police. Bridget Franey is now planning to sue Mersey Tunnel for damages. 5 police officers were suspended after the incident. Residents have been returning to their homes this evening after a large fire in a disused factory in Greater Manchester. Up to 150 people were moved out of houses close to Heron Street in Pendlebury last night. And finally, entries are still being taken for this year's Great Women's Run. The Fun Run takes in Coronation Street on its route through the streets of Manchester. Details are obtainable over the phone. The number to call is 01538 703 203. That's 01538 703 203. Or alternatively, there's also a website address. And that's all from the Granada newsroom for this Friday evening. We're back with another bulletin just after 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Join us for that if you can. But from the newsroom, have a great weekend and good night.
Granada weather.
Hello again, it's dry again across all parts, and that's the way it will stay for the next 48 hours. As we can see from the satellite picture taken a little while ago, picks up relatively clear skies across most parts, but there is more cloud up towards the northeast. We'll have to keep an eye on that over the next few hours. So I think during the course of tonight, that cloud over the North Sea will filter across the Pennines into South Cumbria and North Lancashire. Best of the dry and clear weather initially in the south, but here too becoming misty and murky. Temperatures down to 2 or 3 Celsius in a brisk northeasterly wind. Tomorrow then the sun sets at 7:56, and as for the weather for tomorrow, well, it's a misty and cloudy start in the north. I think as we go through the day though it will improve. We'll all see some sunshine and temperatures well up to 13 Celsius, 55 degrees Fahrenheit, winds moderate and from the east. Have a very good night. I do hope you sleep well, and I'll leave you with a summary.
We've just launched our most innovative and exciting product, the Current Account Mortgage. It combines your mortgage, savings and current account into an all-in-one single account. And most important of all, it could save you thousands of pounds in interest charges against our standard variable rate mortgage. If you make your first port of call the Royal Bank of Scotland, you'll find out how it can give you the control to live your life to the full now, and at the same time save you thousands by repaying your mortgage early. Our current account mortgage could free up your money and your life. You and the Royal Bank of Scotland make it happen.
To find out how you can get a great rate on the Lloyds TSB Platinum card, call 0800 068 0000.
Parted out, stressed out, worn out? One day it'll show on your face. Say stop. New Garnier Synergy Stop, our first multi-action daily moisturiser with multivitamins A, C and E. Say stop to the appearance of fine lines, stop to dull complexion, stop to UVB rays. Proven by dermatologists and by me. New Garnier Synergy Stop. Make time wait. Garnier.
United Utilities, supplying life's essentials.
Non-stop live action. Crewe versus Crystal Palace. Soccer Sunday live at 2 on Granada.